Hey there, welcome to the show. Les Solgrove here with Simply Des Moines Market Values Week 37 Market Update, the show that talks about what happens in Central Iowa every single week since 2020 of March. We are currently, like I said, on week 37 of this year. We are going to be entering into fall here this next week. And so we're going to see some changes, and I think we're going to see some positive changes, which I think you'll find from today's show. So let's get started here. This is the daily market hot sheet, which the one thing you'll notice here, again, we finally got back here to a balanced market, which is about a half a month, about 2 weeks different than where we were a year ago at this time, and still in a seller's market and a buyer's market overall here. So as things tend to start to slow down for the end of the year, we'll start to see this days on market continue to rise a little bit. In fact, we're at 2.1 months of inventory for existing homes versus 1.5 months from a year ago. So that's just a little over 2 weeks slower on the market overall, with inventory staying on for about 2 weeks. So as always, on the Des Moines Simply Des Moines Market Update homepage at Des Moines Market Values. At Des Moines Market Values, you have this graphic as well, which is the same information just in graphic format. So, all right. So last week I was talking about predictions for the first time, and I just wanted to point out, that predictions are always subject to market changes. And so last week, as you recall, I was predicting 13,500 closed sales by the end of the year. And that's where I still am as of today. The number of homes that go into closed process highly depends on the number of homes that are in the sale pending process. And so this past few weeks, I've been watching that information. And this week I decided, well, if we're going to make a prediction last week, I better have a backup in case things change, because they do. I mean, I can point out what a graphic says, but really it's all about what happens in the market. And currently we have a spark kind of growing in the market, and that spark is all about sale pendings. As we all know, that's what really kind of drives future closed sales inventory and helps end our year at a higher point when we have more sale pendings. And so what I did was I looked at the 30-day sales pace. This is a record of all the homes that went under contract over the past week. So I do this every week. And I looked at the number of homes that went under contract during that previous 30 days. So we're looking 30 days back. And the big thing I want you to notice here is this black line is 2022, the gray line is 2021, but 2022 last year, where we were in a very similar interest rate environment. In fact, it's probably a little bit worse this year than we were last year. The last 4 weeks or so, we've seen a slight rise. In fact, week 33 was our bottom out. We were right around 1,000 closed sales. Not closed sales, homes that went under contract in the past 30 days. And that was holding pretty steady with, in fact, it was a little bit faster than 2022. So you can see that number kind of went down at a gradual pace, and we kind of fell off the cliff there those last 2 or 3 weeks from week 31. But what happened is really interesting here is what happened is weeks 33 through 37 now has not only stayed steady, but we've also climbed just a little bit. This week was down just a tad from last week, but we've still climbed overall the last 4 weeks. And let's take a look at how that compares then when you start to add that inventory, those 30-day closed sales, to our overall closed sale pendings. And you can see that we were actually from week 35, from week 35 is where we had the last time before we started to see a slight raise. Now it's leveling off a little bit, but the last 2 or 3 weeks in the 30-day closed sales indicate that this number is going to continue to rise as we move in here the next 2 or 3 weeks. But instead of following this black line from last year, we're narrowing the gap. And that's a really, really good sign for a potential increase in the prediction of closed sales for the end of the year. So how does this look? Where is this information and this inventory coming from? Which category of our market is really making the most strides to help that happen. We'll look at these 4 subcategories, and that'll be the show this week. It's existing homes, and what I did was I just cut that out of the market hot sheet here. This is that section on pending home sales, and right here, that 174 sales behind last year, which is we're just behind last year by 12.6%. And you go, well, that's kind of okay. I mean, what does that mean in the long term? Well, if you look just 2 weeks ago, September 1st, we were behind by almost just a little over 17%. So we've cut that down, that gap down by 5% since just the first of the month, and that's that fact that this line here continues to go down each week through the end of the year. You'll see it just continues down, and we're kind of leveling off. So at some point, we could actually meet and be ahead of last year's numbers. In fact, one of our categories today is ahead of last year's numbers. So that's existing home sales. If we look at existing condo townhome sales, there was a pretty good spike last August in the sale of those, and then it kind of went down. But really by October 1st is where we kind of see that drop off go for the end of the year. So it would not surprise me if this particular category, just out of history, if you look up here in 2021, September tends to be a good month for selling condo townhomes, and these number of homes tend to go into contract pretty well during that month. So again, we were 14.6% behind in sales. That's a unit number of 35 sales behind. So just 35 sales behind last year. That's pretty close, but that's a 14.6% decrease or trail behind 2022. However, if you look again back to that September 1st date, we were down 22% as of that point. So you can see that gap was much wider right here, and it is also narrowing here. So that's a good sign. I think that we'll be happy to see this number continue to go straight across. The new home inventory. This is always interesting as we get to the fall, because look at the black line from new construction. Typically, pending sales tend to peak in early spring and then just slowly go down through the rest of the year. And that's pretty steady, at least this year. I'm sorry, from last year. The year prior to that, it was middle of May before the number of homes in new construction their pending sales started to trail off here. My graphic kind of covers this a little bit from this past year. The others were a little higher, but we had the normal buildup through the spring, and May was our peak this year, which is a little bit closer to 2021, where our peak last year was right around that April, first 2 weeks of April. So we were good to see that new construction has peaked just a little bit later this year, which means that these numbers are probably going to stay up a little bit. So as of today, September the 17th, Sunday the 17th, we are 34 transaction sales behind in the sale pending counts for new construction homes. That's down 7.3%. And again, looking back just 2 weeks ago, we were at 14, almost 15% behind last year at the same time. So that gap is really narrowing here. So I kind of hope and expect that new construction is going to be an area here that's going to help us kind of push that number, that closed sales at the end of the year, up a little bit higher. Of course, those are going to take a little longer to sell, to close, because they have to go through the construction process. But that will certainly, these homes that were sold in June and July, will hopefully be closing before the end of 2023. The last category we have here, and this is the one that is actually ahead of last year, we are looking at the new construction condo townhomes section here, and there's no surprise, new construction condo townhomes has really performed very well in the Des Moines and Central Iowa market in 2023. We were behind last year, obviously, as mortgage interest rates were really kind of the main concern most of this year and all of last year. But we really didn't see a large spike, but we haven't seen this large drop off either. So it's been kind of a much slower drop off. It has been a little bit of a drop off, but as of today, the 17th, we are 3 sales ahead under contract, and that's up 1.6%. So 185 transactions versus 182 last year. And that, comparing that to September 1st, just two weeks and a couple of days ago, we were still below last year's sales at minus 13.1%. So this is what we want to see is all these four categories go past last year's sale pending counts, and then we will come back and we will reevaluate that closed sales for the end of the year. So instead of 13,500 predicted, maybe we'll hit 14,000. That would be a pretty good jump, but hey, anything's possible, and I'm trying to stay positive like all of you. So with that is today's show. If you have any questions, please leave your questions in the comments section, either here on the YouTube channel or on social media. Love to have some conversations with you as to what you think is going to happen as we move toward the end of the year, when there are some predictions of mortgage interest rates starting to drop. So anyway, with that, be sure to visit DesMoinesMarketValues.com every week and every day. The hot sheet is uploaded every single day, so you can kind of keep up on the marketplace. And with that, we will see you all again next weekend. Thanks for joining me. This is Les Solgrove with Simply Des Moines Stats. Have a great week.